Oh, that was much nicer. Hi, it's Todd at Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here, and today I'm back with a fistful of Plumbata again. Now the reason I'm doing this is I'm learning like you're learning. I mean, this is just brilliant for me because, you know, I learn things from practically doing it, but then I go through the comments, and the comments, some of them are just incredibly insightful and knowledgeable, and that really just helps to feed this channel. It helps to feed it all back in, and it helps us all to learn. And that's why we're back again now with Plumbata. A little bit different to last time, but I'll go through that in a minute. The other thing that has to be said now is it's getting cold here, and I work in an unheated shed, so I'm back to my workshop gear. So t-shirts available on Teespring, you'll see the link below. Hoodies, it's only time and hard work that will get you those beauties. But the other thing that we're talking about a little bit is JÖRG'S from the Slingshot channel. Now he has just done a video, he saw my first one on Plumbata. He's done a video on homemade Plumbata. Go check it out, it's brilliant. You know, there's nobody inventive like he is. But he threw down the challenge of can I send him some, and he's gonna mess about with my ones and launch them. So we're gonna do that, but before they depart to JÖRG'S, I'm gonna mess about with them a bit more. Now what are the changes and why have I made them? Well, the first one is I've extended the shaft length considerably really by another 15 centimetres, 6 inches. The reason for that is that they were stable enough, but they weren't really stable. And that meant an overhand throw, they tended to tumble a little bit. I'm going to come back to why I think that might be an overhand throw is important. We'll do that later on. And that is to do with your comments, actually. But the other thing that I've done is I've moved from 3 fletchings, which of course are really useful. That's instinctive when you're making a fletched arrow. You put 3 on because it passes the bow. But actually, it's not as stable as putting 4 on. This isn't being shot off a bow, so why not put 4 on? So that's what I've done. Feathers instead of leather or wood or something like that, because you can grasp them. That means you don't need a sort of a handle section that's unfletched. Makes for a shorter overall weapon. You can grasp it, they spring back. So for me that felt good. Easier to store, easier to transport, easier to wear inside your shield because they don't sort of pop outward a little bit as if they were wood. If they were leather and they were stored inside your shield, the flights would probably deform. So there's lots of reasons I think they were made with feathers. But the bottom line is we don't really know. You know, we know an awful lot about this part going forward because they're in the archaeological record. We don't know about this because they've just rotted away. Unless I'm wrong, you know, you tell me if I'm wrong, please do. But that's my understanding. So this is all exploration. So what I'm going to do now today is we're going to throw in a few different ways. I'm going to try underhand, no spin knife method that's been mentioned. I'll throw it overhand, I'll throw it underhand, I'll throw it like a spear, I'll throw it as a group of them. And we're going to try the JÖRG'S method, which is with a cord on the end and a knot. So we're going to give that a go and use it a bit like a sling, see what that does. And the last of them, we're going to use it with a staff sling. They knew about staff slings, so they might well have used it. And the whole thing about the cord on the end, we have no evidence they did that. And there's some reasons that maybe they wouldn't. We'll talk about that in a bit. But we have no evidence that they did or that they didn't. JÖRG found it to be enormously useful, so we'll give it a go. But if they did put a cord on the end, you can bet somebody would have used it off a staff sling. It just makes sense. Let's try that. So, off to the range and let's just mess about. I'm down at the range now and I've marked off distances at 10 metre intervals out to 50 metres. And we'll see if I can get there. I'll write down the results, you know, the distances for the 3 throws, and we'll get some kind of an average just to see how it works. Don't forget, of course, I am not a professional warrior. This is not my job. I'm not trained to use them. So we can always assume that the Romans who used them would have thrown further than me. A bit further, a lot further, we don't know. But the proportion of whether underhand works better or overhand will still be true. The proportional difference will still be true, be you legionary, be you Todd. So first of all, we're going to throw overhand. I didn't have a lot of success with this last time, not with the ones that I'd done, and we'll see how we go. About 27, I think. Oh, nice. You can see that they immediately straighten up. They're really, really clean to throw. So I'm going to go out there at the end now and we'll just have a look and see what we've got. The 40 metre mark is just slightly out of frame here, but basically we're coming in at about 39, about 38, something like that. And then, you know, way back actually at about 28, 29 on obviously, you know, dodgy throw. Anyway, it's averaging out just under some at 35 meters, and that is for the overhand. Right, we're back. We're going to throw these ones underhand. Now, what that means is that they're going to go much higher, potentially go further, but they also drop down. Now, overhand, straight at people's faces, great stuff. But, you know, if you've got your shields up, how about the guys behind? The underhand lob will go over that, much more like a mortar round. Might even go further, might not. Let's try it. Ah, not so good. A little off line. Oh, that was rubbish. That one was, you know, just a dodgy throw. So I'm just going to go for another on that one. Seems a bit cheaty, but if it's clearly not right, you assume the professionals would try to get it right most of the time. Right, let's go see what we got. They're further, I can tell you that. So we've got 3 here that are going to be in frame. I'll show you where they are. So we've got here, here, both just below the 40 metre mark, and this one out at about 38, about 39 metre average for doing the underhand. I can tell you though, actually, I did some trials earlier today when I was trying to work out lengths, and I was getting nearly 50 odd metres. So, you know I can do further than this. But anyway, for the sake of this trial today, 39 metres is the official marking. More than the overhand. Now that's interesting as well. We'll come back and talk about that in a moment. We're back in the realm of what we don't know again. And that is how the Romans actually deployed them. Because the overhand, the underhand, it matters, right? It absolutely matters. So if you look at the space that I can do this in, I can put my arm up above a shield wall, for instance, and I can throw them. And I'll get a nice distance without too much effort, without any of the big run-up thing. Now, if you're going underhand, you need a lot more space behind you to be able to get a good throw. That means your formations need to be much wider apart. So the whole overhand, underhand, maybe they used it both ways because they know that, they're not stupid. But it does mean that we don't actually know, were they always overhand, were they always underhand? I think we can be pretty sure. Some of your comments talked about atlatls and things like that, throwing sticks, or putting them in a tube or something like that. We can be pretty sure they didn't do that because, as far as I know, there was no evidence at all of Roman technology doing that. Another comment that you came up with, which I think is absolutely critical, is what happens if you throw a bunch of these together? You know, because you've got 10 metres before the lines close, you know, you're trying to make everybody duck behind their shields. Throw them all. Well, why not? You know, maybe you throw them one at a time. That's what they're designed for. But you know what? Somebody, somewhere did it. Let's try it. Overhand, group of 3, all in one go. I'm liking that. And there you go, a group of 3 at the 23, 25 metre mark, and they're all within 1.2, 4 foot of each other. So 25 yards, 4 foot grouping with those 3 shafts. 3 Plumbata again, they're all going to go as a grouping underhand. Let's see what happens. Okay, again, liking it. Right, let's go check it out. And here we have it. A little bit further, not a lot. So 25 metres, 26 yards, something like that, you know, that much further. A little bit tighter grouping, but you know, that's all just chance, isn't it? So actually, overhand, underhand, all much the same, I think, for these, thrown as a group. But quite clearly, effective. You know, really, if you've got a line of guys there, throwing them as a mass group like this, good stuff. Well, good stuff for the throwers, less for the receivers. And now for the next of our trials with our 3 Plumbata, I'm going to throw them like a javelin. Now, just for the record, I talked earlier on at the beginning of the film about throwing them like the no-spin knife technique. But my understanding of that is you just sort of like let it slip off your palm. That's basically like holding the fletchings and just doing an underarm. So I'm not going to bother with that. I don't see that there's a difference. I can't intellectualize a difference between the two. But I am going to throw this as if it were a javelin, you know, or a dart, which I think from my earlier film, I think is where accuracy comes in. Oh, dear me, that's tragic, that is. It's also interesting. Well, the grouping's good. Less excited about the distance. Well, I'm here at the unexciting 16 metre mark. I've got a grouping of about a metre, about a yard, something like that. All 3 are in there. You know, it was accurate. You can actually see that. It was quite well done. You know, quite happy with that. But it is a very unexciting distance at 16 metres. That is undeniable. Whoever out there knows about biomechanics explain that. I think fundamentally it's a leverage thing, really, that what you're doing on the underhand or the overhand is you have the length of the shaft. It's acting as a lever that extends it. I think it's probably something as simple as that, but somebody out there who knows this stuff, let us know. I've got 3 Plumbata now, which I've modified like the JÖRG'S ones, with a cord with a knot on the end so you can release. We're going to try it. I'll try it underhand, overhand, whatever way I can hand it. And we'll just see what happens roughly, what I think of them as much as anything. Once I've settled on the technique, we'll get a distance off that. Oh, yes. Yeah, I like that. So that was underhand. I'm going to try an overhand now. Sort of a bit difficult to kind of know how to, really. Oh. Okay, that was a bit awkward. It went very low, very flat, not very far, 15 meters. I'm going to try it like a sling. Okay, directionally nasty, but you know, practice, that's my throw number 1 I've ever done that. Directionally nasty, distance okay. First one, underhand with a cord, dead easy, dead far. So that is how I'm going to do my 3 now. Right, for the record, that one went about 42 meters. I'm going to try all 3 on the underhand. Now again, I have to reiterate, this was a proposition that JÖRG'S made in his fantastic little video, Homemade Plumbata. We have no evidence the Romans did it. I think his argument, and I think it probably stands, is they would have known about this, they could have done it. There probably would have been occasions, even if it wasn't regular, that they would have done it. So let's just find out, we'll give it a go. 3 of these, what distance do we get underhand with a cord, which is what, 7 inches, 170 mil. And I can tell you now that they go high as well. I think the second one was a little bit low. Third one was properly high, properly over the shields. This was the second one here, bang on at the 40 meter mark. The first one at about 43, 44. Third one just over here. And actually that one is bang on 50. About 44 meters average using the JÖRG'S underhand cord method. And what does any of that mean? Would they have done it? Well, probably, because there's an advantage at times, maybe not regularly. Do we know if they did? No, we didn't. But thank you very much, JÖRG, for introducing the thought to me. It's a good one. We're going to try a throwing string this time. Now, throwing string, some of you will know inside out. Others have never heard of before. It's such a simple thing. It is a piece of string. And you tie like a figure of 8 knot in the end. Nothing clever. Let's tie up a knot. I'll just pull that tight. Simple. You wrap it around. It won't move. So one cord just wraps over the top of the other. Can you see that? Right? What that means is it will give me, I've got to keep it tight, but it will give me a very clean release when I let go. It won't entangle the arrow. And that extra cordage helps launch this 70 odd gram arrow, hopefully a greater distance. So first up, no cord. Whoops. I would say 15 meters, something like that. But that is my best kind of a throw with that. Not very impressive. Now this time I've just prepared my arrow. Just wrap the cord over the end there, just on the feathers, helps it stick a bit. Wrapped it around my finger to the right length, holding it just behind the head. I know it's Yorkshire arrows. You'll see in the comments, must have been done all over Europe because people call it Dutch arrows, Spanish arrows, Kent arrows, whatever. Now, it's not the world's most exciting thing, but that's given it another 5 or 6 meters over the original one. Only difference, all it is a little piece of string. Does the same theory work for Plumbata. Just going to wrap it around, exactly the same process, just locked over there, holding it here. Let's see if this changes anything at all. Not significantly. We'll give it another one, because again, they knew about this sort of technology. They called it the omentum, I believe, and it was like a leather cord that was done in a similar way, but they would actually, with the omentum, wrap it around the shaft that imparted spin to a javelin. And that's great for a javelin which is unfletched, but this is fletched, you don't need to spin it. Oh, that was much nicer. Ah, now that has got really interesting. First arrow was here, actually about 17 meters. That was with no string. Second arrow, 21 meters, and that was with just a little bit of humble string. But the first of the Plumbata that I threw was here, which is the 19 meter mark. that was with the cord. But still, 3 meters better than I did it without the cord. This is the second Plumbata I threw with the cord. So 28 meters with a cord, 16 meters was my best without a cord. 12 meters difference. That is a life or death difference with a little bit of string. So would they have used a string on a Plumbata? Again, just like I demonstrated with JÖRG'S idea back there, somebody somewhere would have done it because they knew about this technology. Now the last up today is going to be the staff sling. Again, no evidence the Romans did this, but they knew about this as a weapon, and they would have known about putting a bit of cord on the end, and they certainly understood the mechanics of it with things like the onager, their catapult that threw rocks. Now, staff sling is a stick with a peg on it. You see that peg? Now, if you look at it closely, I have profiled that side of the peg different to this. There'll be a reason for that. What I have to say is there's no evidence that the Romans did this. It's another thing. But they knew about this technology, they knew about this, so they might have done. The way you use a staff sling is you quite simply put it over the end, you hold it, it's increased mechanical advantage, and you throw. Nice easy throw, 30 meters. Now what's going on with the staff sling? Well, I'm just going to show you, pretending my finger here is a peg. The sling, the stick, is going over that way. If the peg on the end is upright like that, as this projectile comes over and it rotates around, it can slip off quite quickly. That will give you a high lob. That will give you the sort of thing that comes over a shield wall. If that peg is leaning right forward, like that, it now cannot slip off until it's in that position. That will give you a much flatter trajectory, much closer, but much more into the faces of the people who are opposite you. That's true of any staff sling. Absolutely true of any staff sling. All I've done here, and they might have done it, it's just a curiosity thing to show you here, is this side, if that is facing target, will slip off sooner. The Plumbata will go high. If I do it that way, it'll slip off later. The Plumbata will go lower. Which one throws it further? Don't know. Let's find out, because there will be a difference. So we'll give it 3 one way, 3 the other way. We'll just see what happens. First up, we are going to go for height. Going to give it a little bit of welly, see how far we go. Oh, that was beyond the 50. And they're high as well. Now, third one, accuracy not so great at the moment. But distance is good. I think this was the last one, in fact. 44 meters, 50 meters bang on, 51. That averaged out at about 47, 48 meters with the staff sling. But really importantly, they were really high. So they're coming right down with all the energy of gravity, but also, you know, that's a good getting over the walls of the castle, fort, getting over the shield wall. That's a good trajectory to be on. So staff sling works. For the last of our trials today, I'm throwing for the shorter distance, so I'll put the hook where it catches more on this side. I've also moved the GoPro into about 25 meters. Now the trajectory will be very different. I'm going to throw just as hard, but the trajectory will be very different. We should see that. Nice, so that came in 22 meters, 23 meters, something like that. Let's go again. Oh, I'm going to throw that one again actually, because I just planted that in the ground at about the 11 meter mark. That was a bit rubbish. A professional wouldn't have done that. Oh, that was nice. This is just my totally non-professional one going again, just as hard as the earliers. Oh, right, let's go and have a look. So here we have it. This one and this one are at about 23 meters, 23 to 24 meters. This one about the 28 meter mark. That is interesting for me because it means you can have one staff sling and 2 distances without having to compromise power. Because of course you can throw a shorter distance by not throwing as hard, but then it doesn't go as hard. This way, I haven't tried this before actually, it just occurred to me this morning. You can have one peg carved on the end of your stick and 2 different distances. High lob, short and flat, but both of them full energy, which is interesting. Would the Romans have known about that? I don't know actually. I've never heard of this before. I'm sure you lot out there are going to tell me that they've been doing it for years. But yeah, somebody somewhere probably would have thought about it. This is their day-to-day bread, of course, Plumbata. It's not for me, it's just me messing about. But also, remember what's happened here today. You know, that's fairly nice, fairly intimidating grouping. If I was standing there, I'd be worried. I've never done this before, right? I'm used to throwing stuff and shooting stuff, but I've never done this before. Imagine this in the hands of a bunch of legionaries, 5,000 of them, that really know what they are up to. So anyway, let's go back and conclude. We'll have a look at the distances. So, overhand, 35 metres. Underhand, 39 metres. Now, you would assume then that, of course, the Roman army would throw it underhand. Well, that is the assumption that I made in the first film, but of course it's not necessarily true. Some of your comments highlighted that actually that means that there's got to be quite a big space behind you. If you can just throw it, poke your hand above the shield and get 35 metres, not 39, that might be, massive tactical advantage. So just because it doesn't throw as far doesn't mean they didn't do it like that. So I think absolutely conclusively, we cannot know if they threw it underhand or overhand. So they would have used both. It's got to be a given. In the panic, grabbing 3 of them, throwing all 3 at one go, well, I got 25 metres, and pretty good grouping. Wide enough spread that you get 3 guys, So would they have done it? There would have been occasion that they would have done it. Again, no evidence that I know of. Throwing it like a spear, overhand. I got a pretty paltry 16 metres, which is pretty shameful, actually. But I read an interesting study, and we're going to come back to this in some more films in a different series I'm going to do. An interesting study that said that sort of spear throwing roundabout for sort of, reasonably athletic guys, which I suppose I'd do a physical job, reasonably athletic, 16 metres is reasonable. So maybe we're there. Anyway, that's all it was. But I think better for accuracy. JÖRG'S method with a knotted cord on the end. I liked it underhand. Again, it's technology that the Romans would have known about. And they certainly could have used, so probably on occasion they would have used. And they would have used it because it gave me 44 metres. And an underhand throw, 39. It's just that little edge. That's 5 metres more. That counts. Now, some of you are screaming Kestros at me. Kestros was the Greek version with a sling. I'm not looking at that today. I'm just looking at the Plumbata and all the variations that we can mess about with. I will come back to Kestros at another point in time. So this is kind of a bit like a Kestros, but we'll see. Maybe it's completely different. We'll find out in the future. The next one that I did was the staff sling. Now again, this is technology that they knew about, technology they could have used. Whether they had that sort of 2-sided peg like I did, I don't know. I found it interesting though, because you can get a full power throw, either high as a lob or flat. And as a flat one, 25 metres, 26 metres I was getting, hard and fast. And then, it was a high lob. It was the best of the lot at 48 metres. High, over the fort walls, with an awful lot of gravity to bring this thing down. And you saw from the first film, that was nasty on a leg of pork, even from 1 metre. So from 20, 22 metres or whatever it was up in the air, that's really going to count. Well, thank you very much. That was all things Plumbata that I could possibly think of. We're going to come back to Kestros for another time. But the next stop for these now is off to JÖRG'S, and he's going to do something evil and unpleasant with them, almost certainly. And then he's going to send his stuff back to me, and I'll have a mess about as well, and it will be good fun. But in the meantime, if you'd like to support this channel, have a look at the t-shirts and go to the websites. You'll find lots of historical, medieval mainly, but historical weaponry there that is fantastic value for money. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm back again. I'm really sorry. I forgot to do something. So 10 metres that way is a 12mm good quality formed plywood shield. Pretty much about the same size as a scutum, not the same makeup. I do understand that, but I have to do some more work with scutums later on. So please, if anybody knows the makeup of them, please let me know because I want to know. Big question now, do these at 10 metre distance go through 12mm of good ply? Let's have a look. Let's go see what we got. And here we are. The only one of these where the barbs even penetrated the front surface is this one here. All the others should be easy enough to get out. Now, again, that says to me, just like the first time I did this film, is these are about flesh. They're not about armour, they're not about shields. They really are getting into the soft bits of a person and just stopping them fighting. Anyway, thank you very much.